let's take a look at the percentage of the country who say that we're on the right track. It's actually a very high percentage when you compare it to some historical numbers. What are we talking about? According to Marist, 45% say that we're on the right track. That's the second highest that Marist has measured since 2009. How about NBC News? 44%. That's the highest since 2004. Wow. The bottom line is the percentage of Americans who say we're on the right track is through the roof. And if you were to compare it to when presidents have historically been reelected, of course, Trump is not constitutionally eligible to run for re-election, but I think it sort of puts it in perspective. 42% of the country says the country is on the right track when the incumbent party is re-elected. And also keep in mind, back when Kamala Harris lost and the Democrats were turned out of power, only about 27 to 28% of the country said the country is on the right track. The bottom line is right now, a much higher percentage of the country says we're on the right track.
And that's a problem. And that's a problem for the Democrats right now. I mean, what are you going to do? If the whole country thinks we're on the right track and the Democrats are sitting there spinning, saying, oh, but how can you like this guy? You know, he's got aides that are exchanging information on Signal, and they're doing it, you know, without any sort of thought of who's on the text chain. Well, then that's a problem. By the way, thank you for the note on the microphone. We're back up and running. Good to, sorry guys, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm back. We'll have to cut that part out of the final show. But to get back to what I was saying, the reality is the Democrats don't really have anything to run on right now. They're in kind of a bad spot. And being in this bad spot, they may be grasping at straws, which they're going to go back to their old playbook, which has, in my estimation, been around since the likes of 2013 with Smith-Bunt and that whole deal. And, you know, Donald Trump is taking the right approach on all of it, because Donald Trump is saying, hey, you know what? You guys are making a huge deal of this. In my estimation, way too big a deal. Hillary Clinton, like, stop gloating, because I don't think it's going to end well for you, especially when we discover what role you and your campaign really and truly had in that whole Russia hoax. So, you know, from one hoax to the next, they're just making such big deals out of things. I mean, think about the Hunter Biden laptop. The 51X spies are sitting there telling you, oh, it's not true, it's not true, it's not true. And at some point, you're like looking at yourself and you're going, but why would they lie like this? Like, so blatantly lie. I'll tell you, you lose the trust of the American public, you lose everything. He's got the trust of the American public right now. And so they're with him. And he's just calling out BS everywhere he sees it. Sorry, guys, again on the sound. If you're just joining, you should be able to hear now. So CNN finally admits that, you know what? America likes Trump. Now, why do you think that is? Why does America like Trump? America likes Trump because they approve of his policies, even some of the most controversial policies, including none other than the deportations. Check this out, you guys. Majority of Americans, as you heard, you know, from CNN, everybody's saying the majority of Americans actually approve of the deportations. It's something that kind of has absolutely shocked CNN.
63%, according to the latest Fox News poll, say that they favor deporting those immigrants. So that's a pretty high number. Can you square that with what we just heard from Priscilla's reporting?
Yeah, I think that obviously the president has kind of blanketed the airwaves saying that all of these people deported are criminals. And given the fact that we, reporters like Priscilla, we have very limited information to who exactly has been deported. The government has not handed over names. I know CBS got a hold of a list of names, but that hasn't been provided to those who are asking for who was actually deported. And there is a difference between someone who came into the country illegally versus someone who overstayed their visa. That's not a crime. Versus someone who has no criminal history. And based on my reporting, based on clearly Priscilla's reporting, there are some Venezuelan nationals whose family members, whose lawyers say that they were deported, who have no criminal record, who have no criminal history, that they legally applied for asylum or were trying to gain status, where some of them were in the middle of proceedings, and then they were deported.
So no one on CNN can quite believe that more than 60% of the country actually is okay with the deportations. But, you know, no one on CNN is like living in any kind of area that they might feel threatened by security-wise, right? Or economically threatened. All these things that are relevant to most Americans aren't relevant to the people on CNN. So I think there's this divide, massive divide. And so it goes back to, do people approve of Donald Trump? You're seeing record approval ratings. They're not getting that kind of approval over on the Dem side. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is touting the economy, right? The economy, market's up again today. What do you know? This is actually kind of shocking, right? In the face of all the tariffs and threats about higher inflation, he keeps seeing more and more success on the economic front. Here we go.
Mr. President, yes, I ask you about economic forecasts. I saw one economic forecast coming out from the OECD this past week. They are forecasting stagflation for the United States, a downtick in terms of GDP growth. Do you agree with that forecast? What do you see over the course of 2025 for our
Well, we inherited a very, very bad and perilous situation from a group of people. Again, we just got here from a group, and this takes a long time to develop, from a group of people that truly didn't know what they were doing. And you see that with not only costs, you see that with all of these fake contracts that have been given out. So we inherited a bad situation, but I think we're going to have an economy that booms. I think when it all kicks in, it's not going to take very long, because some of these people that announce that they're going to spend billions of dollars, I mean, literally, Apple is spending $500 billion. They've never made anything close to that to do that. They're building plants here instead of China, instead of other places. When it all happens, and it's going to happen very soon, these are people that are already, in many cases, they're already starting. They just announced. In some cases, they announced, but they actually started before the announcement, as you know, because some are already building. This is going to kick in. I think it's going to be amazing. So they're looking at, based on numbers that I was looking at 6 months ago, 7 months ago, I was very concerned about the economy. We're going to have something that's like nobody's ever seen before. We have numbers, and we have job generation that I don't think we've ever seen before. See how it works out, but I think the economy is going to go through the roof.
Wow. Okay, I actually think it is too, believe it or not. Well, you may know that, right? Because I invest. I invest for the future. I invest for myself, my family. I'm a big believer in what's happening now from a policy standpoint. I mean, wouldn't you like to actually have real growth instead of government growth? And there's a chance that all of this happening right now, and it's what's got me so excited. I encourage you to go check out the portfolios at 76portfolios.com, 76portfolios.com. You can see all of our portfolios have just done phenomenally well, with some of the top picks up 72, 75%. The other thing you can do, if you're not ready for a portfolio and you're not ready to invest in 10 to 15 stocks that we're suggesting are really good long-term plays, then I would encourage you to go check out my financial research at 76research.com. Use code word dollar. This is my letter that I send in conjunction with my dear friend Rob. And there's a wealth of information for you to work with, including some stock picks there as well. So 76research.com. I would say this, I mean, the policies are working. And you know what? They're cutting the government waste. I want you to hear Brooke Rollins, Secretary Rollins, talking about all the crazy stuff she found. I mean, this is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Well, let me just add to that, and thank you. We just had a wonderful cabinet meeting, all aligned on certainly the effort to realign the government. But even at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, we've canceled a $300,000 contract educating on food justice for queer and transgender farmers in San Francisco. A similar contract we canceled in New York, again, educating transgender and queer farmers on food justice and food equality. I'm not even sure what that means, but apparently the last administration wanted to put our taxpayer dollars towards that. We canceled a $600,000 contract out of Louisiana that was studying the menstrual cycles of transgender men, a $600,000 contract. We canceled another contract out of a university in the middle of the country that focused on getting more diversity, equity, and inclusion into our pest management industry. Again, these are nonsensical. It makes zero sense to use taxpayer dollars to fund these. I know these are just a few examples of the hundreds and hundreds that we have found.
Amazing. Like, seriously amazing. And so you wonder why Donald Trump's doing well. Do you think that people like the idea of these grants going to certain farmers that have a certain sexual persuasion, or, you know, the studying of menstrual cycles in transgender women or men? I can't even remember. Like, I'm all confused, all right? Is that the idea? We're just going to confuse everyone with our giant psyop like we try and do all around the world, and now we can turn it on the US of A? Really crazy, all right? Really, really crazy.